What's on your evil mind?
Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really Iron Man, Mr. Stark?
Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CB Caps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you have heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Video folks, pardon me for one moment while video folks, yeah, there we go. That's the pepper. Making sure we're picking up good here. All right, folks, this is the Comic Book Chronicles, and you can find this here podcast on the Cold Source Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You could also find us on your podcast approval place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcast, Spotify, or the Cold Source Podcast Network SoundCloud page. You could also find us recording live every Thursday night on the Click Nation's YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/theclicknation. That's TheKlickNation, all one word. But also on twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles, which is also all one word. And hopefully, I think we may have ironed out the issues we had last week, so we won't have the issues that we did then. So we're going to start off like we do every week or most weeks with a little bit of comic books talking abouting, and we're going to start off with The Thing #1 from Marvel.
Right. This is the first issue of. Oh, I did not catch how many issues this is supposed to be. This limited series. I believe it's a limited series.
Yes, it is a limited series. Actually, hold on a second, because I want to say, is it on the cover of which I'm about to put on?
It doesn't say. It says part 1.
Okay.
It says #1. It doesn't say like one of something.
So,
it just says part 1, so that's interesting.
But I feel like it does. I've seen it. So hold on. Let's check one little thingy here, real quick. Yeah.
And while Roddykat is checking that, I will read off the credits of this book. Allow me a moment to scroll.
So yeah, it's one of, according to Comixology, it's 1 of 6.
There it is. So this is #1 of a 6-issue limited series. It's written by Walter Mosley, the novelist.
Yes.
Art is by Tom Riley. Colors are by Jordi Belair. And letters are by VC's Joe Sabino. And first and foremost, what we need to stress here, and it's actually on the credits page of this book, is that this Thing story is a bit of a retcon because it's a new story from a classic era brought to you by the aforementioned creative team. So it is, going into this, we are definitely informed that this is a retcon story. It's a story that Walter Mosley is looking to fit into a specific period in time in the history of the Thing and the Fantastic Four. Specifically, this falls after the fall of the Soviet Union. That's one thing. It's after that, as well as after the initial. I don't know how many times Ben Grimm and Alicia Masters were engaged to be married, but this is definitely after that happened.
Hmm.
Whenever, I don't remember if they had broken it off several times. I just don't recall.
Right.
But there is a point in their relationship where they become affianced, and this is set after that time. So take those two particular historical uh, landmarks or historical points in time as a way of putting this story into context.
Right. And also, I guess for one other point on that note is a particular time in things. Mutation is not necessarily the right word, but what his form, because he's not like the soft, rocky form of his original. It's pretty much the classic form that people really know. When this is right after that, I guess, came into being.
Right. Well, I mean, the point being, given the historical context that I just gave with like
Right.
real life and comic life, we're I think we're meant to think that this is maybe right before or right after the pineapple thing, because remember, in our time, their marriage only just took place.
Right.
Right. So, like I said before, them being engaged, I can't remember when that actually happened,
Wait, I thought this
or
form
how many
was
times is,
sorry.
or how many. Oh no, I was gonna say how many times they may have broken, like gotten engaged and then broken it off and gotten back on again.
Right. I thought this form was before the pineapple.
This particular form,
Yeah.
I mean, this is his standard form, so my guess is that it could be before or after.
Right. But
When I
regardless,
say
everything.
standard form, this is like 80s thing,
Right.
90s thing. Like at some point in the 90s, he goes pineapple, right? But then he goes back, I guess, late 90s, early 2000s, and he's really not changed his form since,
Right.
other than getting, scars on his face and, becoming misshapen at some point.
Right, because I feel like even they've even changed the eyebrows. But then again, I'd have to
Yeah,
look
that's
at.
a style. I was about to say, I think that's a stylistic thing more than
Right.
anything. But I agree that that's definitely a marker of, a line of demarcation in terms of like how the thing is depicted. So, that's an interesting way to put it. It actually comes into play in the Marvel Legends line of action figures, where you
Right.
can see the eyebrows on the thing being subtly different depending on the era they're looking to depict. So, I understand that too. But again, I'm more inclined to think that's an artistic choice.
Sure.
But in any event, enough of us trying to put this story into context. As we said, the writer Walter Mosley, the who's an acclaimed novelist that I had never heard of, but Roddykat is familiar with,
Oh yeah.
decided to put this thing story into that particular historical context, and is telling this retcon story of a spirit or magical entity that apparently has found its way to Earth and has literally done um, a fatality on somebody from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, and that
And
happens twice. Yeah, a couple
right,
times in this thing.
using that fatality basically takes over the life of the victim, and that person pops up at the end of the issue. Meanwhile, the thing is, you know, let's say he is hitting some rocky, and then pun fully intended, he's hitting some rocky moments in his life and relationships with the FF and with Alicia Masters.
Right.
So much so that he turns to, it's not Match, it's not OK Cupid, but it's similar to that. It's an option, it's a stand-in for some of those online dating services.
Right. I called it a
And
cosmic Tinder, even though it's not
I'm
really
sorry.
cosmic. But
Right. And it's also not on his phone. So that's why I use the older ones
right.
as a reference, as opposed to the newer ones, because this particular dating service, Ben Grimm accesses through his quote unquote desktop computer, which would be in the Baxter building. And, as a result, he finds a connection. And the connection is someone newly created for the story. And I'll let Roddykat take it from here.
Right. So, as a matter of fact, not only newly created to the story, but apparently attached to the person that gets controlled earlier on in this issue. And actually, I want to ask you a question real quick. So, wait, have you watched Devil in the Blue Dress? The Denzel Washington movie?
I was going to say, I know it's a Denzel movie. I don't recall if I've seen the whole thing or just parts.
Gotcha. Okay.
But
Well,
I'm
if you've
familiar
seen
with the
that,
movie, but just not. I don't know if I've watched it all the way through.
Gotcha. Well, if you've seen that or whatever the other, because there was another Easy Rollins one. That's also based off Walter Mosley's book. So I figured you might have known him from that. But either way, which is actually another funny thing. I totally forgot this was coming out because I know we had talked about this a while ago, and I saw the cover for this when I was looking for covers, and I was like, oh, that must be like a one of his old they were like doing a collection of his old stuff. Until I actually looked into it, I was like, "Oh, right, that's that new thing that's coming." So, but anyway,
I was gonna say that shows you how long ago we probably discussed the solicitation information.
right, exactly.
Probably 2 months ago. Probably 2 months ago.
At
Because
the
that's
very
generally how far apart. How far ahead we're looking at solicitation. So yeah, let's say roughly 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, we talked about it, and
right.
lo and behold, the book is now out.
Right. So that being the case, though, so yeah, and I guess given what everything Agent 70 just said, also this is from a particular time in Ben's securities, also because and that kind of comes into play in here a little bit because. And I say that with the him and Alicia thing, which I think we both agree was a little escalated a little bit quickly when that happened, but I think we may be differing on the behinds of it. Anyway, regardless, so what causes Ben to do that thing that Agent 70 just said was basically off of a misunderstanding between him and Alicia and some other dude that just so happened to be there that maced that maced Ben and caused him to hit just take a swipe at a car, but it was taken out of it was taken pretty much out of not necessarily out of context, but that's just the closest I've got right now because this guy who maced him pretty much told Alicia that he was running wild, and she kind of went with that, and because of the fact that Ben was just so happened to run up on him and kind of said something a little, kind of played off his insecurities on that, which kind of started that whole box running. So that part was the thing, and then which weirdly enough, I thought this was kind of strange. Like it just so happens that from that situation, Ben gets put in jail, a vibranium jail at that, which I wouldn't. I'm surprised they would have had at that time, whatever time this is supposed to be set in, and then end up there with Hercules, who's in his
They
old
called
classic.
it artificial vibranium jail,
Sure.
so it's not right. So it's not naturally occurring vibranium or Antarctic vibranium. So
Sure.
somebody decided to put like a wannabe secondary level of vibranium together to make a cell for the NYPD that Ben still figured a way out of.
Right, which is again another thing that seems like that's a little too good to be true that it was that easy to do. But that kind of leads to Ben going through the motions and get with this data service and meeting this lady who, as Agent 70 said, is new to the story, but also back to what I was saying, as attached to the person from the beginning of the story, and then there's an altercation in that, leading into the end of this issue. And as I say in my notes, that dude's costume needed some work because he just kind of did like a bootleg Power Man thing with some tires and called it.
Yeah, the tires were a bit underwhelming. Let's put it that way.
Right. So I had a little giggle with that, but it was kind of fun. All in all, the art in this was pretty good. The story in itself, like we have to see where it goes. Like I'm very curious to see where this is going. It's only 6 issues, so I can pretty much stay with that. And this I would like to believe because it's Walter Mosley, it'll have some substance to it. But at the same time, I don't know. I can't remember if he's done any other comic book work in recent history
Right.
or at all. Now that I think about it, he might
Right.
have, but I
Six
just don't
issues
remember.
is one of those. Right. A 6 issue limited series is one of those. Growing up, we haven't seen too many 4 issue limited series. 4 issues used to be the smallest limited series you would get.
And
Every once in a while, you'd get a 2 issue, but generally the smallest one you would see is a 4. So you would see some stories be somewhat compressed or somewhat rushed so they could get to some sort of turning point by the end of the second issue, right? So, by the halfway point of the story. With 6 issues, the creators have a little bit of time to develop. So we already have an idea of what the conflict is going to be here in this limited series, but we're only through 1 issue, and to get to the halfway point, we have to get through 2 more.
Yeah.
So we'll see where Walter Mosley takes the ever-loving, blue-eyed favorite nephew of Aunt Petunia over these next 2 issues, and see where this limited series may end up going.
Right. I like I say, as a fan of Walter Mosley's novels, like I said, I recognize that doesn't translate into comics being in the comics being good. Like I said, whether he's done any more comic work both prior to this or not, which I feel like there might have been, but I don't even remember. I don't think it's the case. But like I said, I'm willing to give it a chance, and for that reason. Obviously, there are other people. I'm kind of two ways about that whole thing. Anyway, as I've said in the past, because people coming into comics from one way or another, all kind of different other ways, is real easy to do. Like at least a novelist would be partially, would be along the same line, so you can get that. But like I said, we'll see how this story shapes out going forward.
I was gonna say, you wonder how a prose writer would be able to translate their storytelling strengths into comic book storytelling. So
Which we have
we'll
seen,
see how this shakes out.
right? As in, I mean, right? Because as we saw with Ta-Nehisi Coates and Black Panther, it started out a little rough, but ended up being pretty decent. I guess you could say the same about John Ridley. Rainbow Rowell, the host of other novelists that have turned comic book writers.
Right, that's right.
Wait, I guess Charles Soule would be in that. Kind of would be in that, wouldn't he?
I don't know if he started out as a novelist, though.
Yeah,
I think he
that's what I'm trying to
started
think.
writing novels after.
Right.
Although I could be wrong. Because
Right.
remember, all I know about Soule is that he started off as a lawyer.
Correct.
So,
But regardless, we know there are several other instances of novelists becoming comic book writers, and
sure.
being
Sure.
all right.
All right. So,
next up,
President Bartlett.
What's next?
Let's see what's next. How about we move to another book that we have in common? How about Strange Academy number 13?
yes.
All right. Strange Academy number 13 is written by Scotty Young with art by Humberto Ramos, colors by Edgar Delgado, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowell. So this is slightly out of turn in continuity because there is no reference in this issue to what is happening with Doctor Strange.
Correct.
You agree?
I agree. Yeah. I feel like this must be before that, because they might have had this already going, so they'll in the next couple of issues they'll catch it up.
I have a feeling that is the case. I just wanted to make sure I confirmed that with Roddykat, because it was a little strange to see this story, which basically continues. It's not an every issue thing. We're up to issue 13, and we are still getting introduced to several of the students' the backstories, as it were. We've seen Eirik and the two Asgardian twins, the children of the Enchantress. We've seen a little bit of their origin during in the main book. We actually saw more of it. Alvi and Eirik.
Right.
We actually saw more of it in the Death of book that came out last week. The Death of Doctor Strange book that was highlighted. That was a one shot for the Strange Academy kids. So in this issue we have highlighted. Zoe. This is the character who is, and we actually find out a much deeper origin. But this is the one that had been hiding the fact that she was a zombie-esque type character during the earlier issues of Strange Academy. But now we have a much more in-depth presentation as to in-depth study into her character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only other thing we knew about that, which early on in the book, was the fact that she was a descendant of Marie Laveau, which, if you've watched American Horror Story, you know that name, and may know that name from history period. But yeah, the crux of this issue is pretty much giving her backstory and how she came to be the way she is. But it also kind of, well, one, there is definitely a bleed plot and a potential another plot also off the main one. And one is that the kids are going into town, just because they had presentations. And I don't know if you peeped out that presentation list.
I was getting their names from because I can never remember all their names.
I got you.
So,
right. I was kind of upset that we didn't get to see the presentation, but I know that was going to take another because we only saw one of theirs. But regardless, coming off of that, the kids decided to go into town, and for some strange reason, the other kids decide to go to this graveyard, and just so happened to look up Zoe's ancestor.
Well, because it's supposed to be the most haunted place in New Orleans. Right. That's the draw for them. Yeah, obviously that makes sense.
Sure.
Sure. And from Scotty Young, the writer's perspective, that it makes perfect sense to obviously when they set this in New Orleans, there's this is one of the reasons why, because there is that strong connection with several aspects of mysticism and voodoo in New Orleans.
Right.
There, as Roddykat mentioned, there are a couple of secondary storylines, aka B plots, that seem to possibly kick off or spin off a couple of other subplots going forward. One of them deals with Emily Bright, dealing with something that had been happening in the background of several issues of Strange Academy, where Emily had been looking into had basically stumbled upon some of Doctor Strange's secrets, and she finds herself dealing with one of them in this issue.
Right.
Another one is, and it's a byproduct of Zoe's story, which is dealing with Calvin's some of the after effects, the ramifications of the revelations about Calvin's, the source of Calvin's mystical powers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and that's from the last arc. Yeah.
Right. So that is an ongoing issue, and Zoe's origin weaves an element directly into what's probably going to be the next step in Calvin's story.
Right.
So this was an interesting, I really liked the presentation in this issue, because I wasn't sure where Emily's story was going, and it turned out to be okay.
Right.
At the same time, I really liked, I'm not familiar with Marie Laveau. I probably have heard the name. I'm just not as familiar with it. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not an American Horror Story person. So it's not, at the tip of my tongue or at the, at the front of my brain. It's definitely in the recesses of my brain. But ultimately, I thought that the presentation here and the telling of Zoe's origin was really effective. And it was only done over a few pages, but it really worked for me. And as I said, seeing who's this kid again? The one with the leather, who used to have the leather jacket? Calvin. You know, seeing how Calvin's new status quo weaves directly into Zoe's story. And, you know, one of the aspects of Zoe's story is just, you know, I thought that was a nice move to keep to keep the momentum of his story moving forward.
Right. So yeah, and it very much makes sense because, like, especially after that, and because of the source of his power now not being around anymore, you know, he's kind of fitting in a little bit of he's into it, kind of in his feelings in a way, so which is kind of leading him down this road to probably going to get himself into more trouble, as it were. Now, the funny part of the thing about, not even the funny part, the thing about the Emily part was like, okay, this doesn't seem like this is going to work out as well as she thinks it's going to, and the jury's still kind of outlawing that, but so far it kind of is. So that made me kind of think like, well, what was the point? Well, what was the other point of doing that? Because who we come to find out is was locked up in Doctor Strange's basement. Who I thought was the person who just got was the thing that just got dispatched in the last arc. Was a newer villain that I could have sworn was taken out when that person at the end of that person's arc or story, basically. But now that I think about it, it's like I don't actually remember what, because at this point in actual time, it's been what, a good year since we've seen that character, or almost 2 years, I guess, since we've seen that character.
Has it been that long?
It's time's a construct, dude. It's been a good minute.
Yeah, I was about to say none of us really understand
because
time
you gotta
right
think,
now.
because that arc is like at least at least at this point probably a year or 2 years ago, because that was like the whole death of magic thing, and that was like that was that was at that point kind of a while ago.
Wow. Okay, I may have to flip through Marvel Unlimited just to check that out, but that's a little on the wild side for me. I can't believe that.
But that being said, like the fact that Strange Academy just chose to come back to it and it's like, okay, and do something with this, like, okay, this can't be just this right here. And obviously, I like how this character got left in Hobbiton.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I suspect, like I said, maybe that's it, and they just wanted to put a cap on that, or maybe it's going to lead to something else that we don't know, that we don't know about just yet.
Well, my guess is that character is going to become a resource for them because they showed mercy, or at least Emily showed mercy.
Right.
That's my guess. At some point, that character is going to become a resource because, despite the fact that Strange had this character locked up and still has this character locked up, Emily was kind enough to show mercy, and I suspect that is going to come back in their benefit.
Right. And I'm very curious to see how that happens, or how and or when that happens. Like, maybe that is something still leading up to something that's going to happen in Death of Doctor Strange, and we just, that may be the thing that was kind of already put in place. We don't know. Because, like I said, this story seems to be taking place before that.
Right.
That being said, we can move on, though. But yeah, I've enjoyed, we've both said we've enjoyed Strange Academy all the time, and the way the things are presented in this particular issue. I believe I did say this was a potential click of the week. I might have said that.
It's definitely a potential click of the week for me because I definitely liked, I liked the way they wove Zoe's origin into the story. Just made a lot of sense. Just the way they pulled the way they portrayed it and told the story. So, all right. So how about we only have a few more books in common this week, and they both happen to reside in the Spider corner of the Marvel Universe. So let's tackle these two. Would you want to do Amazing or Miles first?
Let's get Amazing out the way.
All right. So Amazing Spider-Man number 78 is written by Kelly Thompson with art by Sarah Pichelli and Jim Toe. Colors are by Nolan Woodard and Rochelle Rosenberg, and letters are by our very own Paisan VC's Joe Caramagna. Do you want to take it? You want to start? I'll pick up wherever you want to leave off.
Sure. So this is at the end of this is after the, well, actually not even now. It's kind of still in the between the fight between Ben and Moreland. Uh, Moreland just had a snack on Ben, so we figured that was the end of it, huh?
You mean Morbius?
Morbius. Excuse me. Why did I put more? Actually I put Moreland on here for some stupid reason, and you're right. It is Morbius.
It's okay.
One vampire, other whatever thing. But yes, Morbius, the living vampire, who is apparently
Yes, spider like totem hunter or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. So apparently, like I said, Morbius kind of munched on Ben at the end of that, and we figured that might have been the end of that, or something was going to happen to that. But apparently, the fight was still going on. Ben actually gets away, but it comes to find out that Morbius is needing a little bit more than or what he gotten off of Ben. So, and I guess Ben picked up on that and leads him back to his house, of all places. But then he's in the Beyond Core building, so I guess it's pretty protected. But
right. I actually understood that because he really had nowhere else to run.
Yeah, and I kind of get that too, because like, well, he was going to be kind of sort of safe there, but at the same time, it gave the Beyond Core something else to play with, and because this goes into them pretty much capturing Morbius, and also we're seeing a little bit of behind the scenes true coloring from the Beyond Core when Ben is being looked into. So we start to see the shades of that. And the best couple of parts about this this issue, to which I hate the fact this is the case because it's got me for another couple of issues, is one. Well, we do get, so 87 continues to be right because we get another Peter check in. And this one was kind of, between M&J and Felicia kind of having a moment, apparently, in that, without going through what actually happens there. But one Monica Rambeau, Spectrum, shows up to help out Misty and Colleen, or I guess working with them for about something. Obviously, we kind of know what that's about, because as someone who has some experience with the Beyond Core, Monica Rambeau would be one. So we assume there's a little bit more going on there. So, and I think I might have slightly called that one because we figured, because of Beyond Core being here and Next Wave being the big thing, that the Beyond Core, at least some people know the Beyond Core for, specifically myself, and her involvement in it. At some point, it would have made sense for her to be somewhat involved in this.
Right, and ultimately, what it came down to is that when I saw Monica make her appearance, I was like, okay, so now we're trying to tie in her previous experience with the Beyond Corp into what's going on now with Ben Riley's with Ben Riley, right?
Right.
And I can't even bring myself to call him Ben Riley Spider-Man. So
yeah, you heard me. So
what's that?
I said, yeah, you heard me. I don't think I've mentioned Spider-Man once.
It's just difficult, and seeing her pop up made complete sense because we had already been bumping on the fact that both of the Daughters of the Dragon being in the employ of the Beyond Corp really rubbed us the wrong way. It got our own respective spider senses tingling. And we were correct in thinking there was something more to it than met the eye. Shout out to the Transformers. And we had our suspicions basically confirmed in this issue. So with Monica leaving off on a minor cliffhanger, because basically what we're informed is that what we're informed of is that the Daughters of the Dragon are basically double agents, or maybe double agents. Maybe. That's what's implied at this point.
Maybe.
So we will see how that plays out.
Right. So and it's worth noting for those who know about Bianco and Next Wave, which you should read because it was actually pretty good despite who wrote it. Let me not say that. That's regardless. Monica shows up in her Next Wave uniform, aka the kind of sort of spectrum uniform with the big trench coat. So if that doesn't harken back to that, I don't know what to tell you. So whether we see Boom Boom and Machine Man come up next, who's only time will tell.
Right.
Also, I don't know if you noticed um the Stegman reference.
Yes, I did in the movie.
Right. But did you also see, I don't know if this is anything of note or anything, or that was just an artistic choice, but did you see what was going on in the moonlight in that same panel?
Oh, now I look at it. Is that the moonlight?
I believe it looked as though it looked like the moon there was some moonlight shown into a particular spot, and I was like, that doesn't seem like that would work that way.
That is. I'm going to zoom in because I'm looking at our review copy as we speak, which allows us to zoom in. I'm just, it's just taking me a minute.
Right. It might not mean anything. But...
I kind of bumped on that. I did not think that was the moon, but now that I look at it, I guess it would be. That's just a weird coloring choice.
Exactly. So I was like, there's something particular about that, and I'm not sure if that is it's supposed to be something.
Or it's to be Monica flying away.
I thought about that also, but I don't know. It just seemed, I don't know. Maybe it could be, but that would mean that she would have been either close by to where they were or something. I mean, could very well be, but
they probably don't let Ben go that far from the Beyond Corporation building.
Yeah, that's also
so
true.
So actually, yeah, I was about to say that's actually not beyond the realm of possibility. No pun intended.
Yeah. But either way, it was something that kind of struck me. I was like, that seems a really particular art choice. But we'll see if there's something to come off of that later. But we do see at the end of this issue another villain that is poised to give Mr. Riley some grief, and we'll see where that goes in the next issue. Excuse me.
Yes, a certain version. Because I can't remember who's actually wearing the lion's mane at this point.
I believe that's the son. That is the son.
Is it? Mm-hmm. That's what I thought.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's a big spoiler for you, folks.
Exactly.
Who else is running around with a lion's mane on?
Exactly.
So.
But that, like I said, it's got me on the hook for at least another issue or two.
Right. It's terrible. I knew they were going to do this. They were just going to do just enough to keep everybody who's cheering for Peter Parker to get better and to kick Ben Reilly back to the curb, to keep them on the hook, at least to check in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I still have this book on my pull list. I hesitate to read it. I hesitate to look at it, but it's still there. It's it kind of hurts me. I feel like what is it? So 9 Inch Nails did the original Hurt song, right? But my favorite version, and a lot of people's favorite version, is the Johnny Cash version.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like when I'm reading that, like, I hurt myself today to see if I still feel I focus on Peter. The only Spider-Man that's real.
Nicely done. Nicely done. And I guess speaking of that, the next book that we're about to go into is going to tie back into this, sadly.
Yes, because definitely that's definitely an interesting segue, because when I read this issue and we get to the point of the story where it's kind of an abrupt, halt to the proceedings, what ends up happening is, as Roddykat mentioned, a direct tie-in into the current happenings in Amazing Spider-Man. So let us move over to Miles Morales. One second, pull up my credits. Miles Morales, Spider-Man number 32. It's written by Saladin Ahmed, with art by Christopher Allen, colors by Guru EFX, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. Let's see here. Do you want to go from your notes? I'm still scrolling to get to my copy of the book.
Sure. So Starling's been captured by the Taskmaster and taken somewhere. And we get some I guess some narration from her at the beginning of this. And then we cut back to a couple of minutes earlier to where not Ben, food lord, still, that's a terrible mistake there. Miles is still trying to recoup and go after her after the beating that he's taken from the Taskmaster, and he gets some help in getting patched up, and seeks out the help of a teammate, a champion's teammate of his, to look for where Starling's been taken. But as we've come to find out, Starling, is not a damsel in distress. Much to the actually, I'm kind of wondering if that part wasn't intentional. It was like, so Taskmaster was tasked to get her for a client that we still have not seen, but I have a strange feeling we know who it is.
Oh, of course, it's Adrian Toomes.
Right. So
at least that's who we're led to believe it is. That's who we're led to believe it is.
Right. And it's very, very well possible it might not be him, but all signs at this point are still pointing to them, because at this point, Starling knows who. By the way, Starling is Tiana Toomes, that is Adrian Toomes' granddaughter. For those who don't know, and she found out that he was a criminal, which kind of put her at odds with him. So from that, we're thinking that he might have put this out, just kind of to get back with. Like, that sounds like a Vulture thing to do. It's like, I don't know, to kidnap her, sort of bring her to me, so so you can see my reasoning or something. I don't know, but we don't necessarily know if that's the case. We just speculate very heavily, and it seems so far hold true. And then we go from that to where there's a round two between Starling, Miles, and the Taskmaster up until the time is up. And then a really sharp pivot into where we were talking about at the beginning of this, goes into the ties back into Amazing Spider-Man, where Miles gets hit up with some lawyers. With a C&D.
Yeah, I was about to say, at the very least, a C&D, at the very least, some sort of restraining order.
Right. To which we did see in Amazing Spider-Man in the last issue too, because I do remember that there's been something that's like, yeah, we're currently looking at, the something about they were basically hinting around the scene about these other spider folks. So I guess it was stands the reason to where something like this was going to happen at some point. Right. So coming out of that, next issue is going to be a beyond storyline tie-in. Yeah,
it's actually going to be continued in Amazing number 81.
Mm-hmm. So sadly, we kind of get away with it, get away from it even if we wanted to.
Right. And issue 33 we presume is the continuation from that Amazing Spider-Man story.
Presumably, yes.
Yeah, because it's because of the note that's left to us at the end of this issue instructs us to jump over to Amazing 81, and the next issue also has to deal with the Beyond stuff. So we presumably have to find out what happens in Amazing before we get to Miles number 33.
Right. One interesting point that I saw in this, and I don't know if Agent 70 picked up on it, but Miles apparently picked up a new, I call it a video game power, from a run-in with one of his clones, which I vaguely remember that particular thing happening, but sure, it probably did. And I might have said the same thing even then.
Oh, I did. I noticed that. I bumped on that. I was like, what is he doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was weird.
Right.
I honestly, and I understand this is another way to differentiate Miles from Peter and all the other spiders.
Mm-hmm.
Because powers are just different in that they were granted in a different way and they were granted in a different universe.
Right.
So it makes sense that they would do their best to differentiate him, and by giving him this like Venom charge power that is multifunctional
Mm-hmm.
makes sense, but at the same time, it doesn't overpower him. I definitely don't want to go that far,
Right.
Because that's just not the case.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like, wait, you're Spider-Man. You can figure with the base Spider-Man powers, you can figure out a way to get to a barge.
But he's
I'm
also
sorry.
young, so I mean, he probably wasn't thinking like that.
No, but I'm just saying, like
But
in
you're
terms
right.
of
Yes.
in terms of his base power set and tech, assuming he's got the regular, standard issue web fluid
Right.
and the standard issue web shooters, we've seen Parker figure out a way to get to something like that that's far away from web swinging height, web swinging points.
Sure.
Obviously, we've probably seen him swim more than not. But
Yeah, I mean, probably would have been a web slingshot of some sort.
yeah, I mean that's what I assumed it
Right.
would have been, but I didn't want to put that out there just because I wanted the listeners and the viewers to kind of put that in their minds.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, if you're familiar with how Spider-Man has been written up until this point in time, you wonder how Peter would have figured this out, because he lacks that particular power set that Miles has.
Right.
So, but in any event, I bumped on that. I admit I bumped on that, but otherwise, when it came down to it, this is the Taskmaster. And I hate to bring up our disagreement on how the Taskmaster was portrayed in Black Widow, the MCU movie,
Mm-hmm.
because this is the Taskmaster that has been developed in Marvel Comics up until up to and including his recent miniseries, and so this is the Taskmaster I honestly was looking forward to, and hopefully we still get in the MCU. Aside from the Taskmaster that we saw in the Black Widow movie, because while that character definitely had a purpose, I think the Taskmaster character, the way we understand him in the comic books, I think can serve an even greater purpose moving forward in the MCU. But that's just my opinion.
Sure.
Feel free to disagree with me or agree with me on social media. Have that.
I feel like I feel like we still have that Taskmaster could potentially still be in the MCU as at least closer to what we originally got in the movie. Put it that way. But that being said, I think the last thing I'll say in passing that that new power set one did seem like a kind of a video game thing. Like if you were playing Miles Morales' video game, that probably something would have shown up there. But also, going back to Miles' power set, even from the get-go, I was like, well, that's kind of Spider-Woman. Like, yeah, they call it something different, but it's not that far off from her I forgot what they call them, her blasts.
Venom blast.
Yeah, so it's pretty much the same thing. They're just pretty much mixing the two.
Mm-hmm.
In that particular case. So it's not like I say that to say that it's not like he has a totally different power set than the other spiders, because like I said, he's got a little bit from Jessica and Scott. The only thing I think he's got from on his own, which I'm fairly certain none of us gotten, that he hasn't used. Oh, no, he did use it last
It's the camel, yeah.
Well, is the cloak, yeah.
Yeah, I call it the camo. Yeah,
Sure.
the camouflage.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the only thing that's uniquely his.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that being said, that was Miles Morales Spider-Man number 32. Still pretty good. I guess we'll find out who that person is that's going after Starling, or if we were right about whoever that person is in an issue or two, or unless they're gonna kind of bake it into whatever's. They're probably gonna put it in as a side note to this Beyond thing. Who knows?
I would laugh if they subvert our expectations just by a touch.
Mhm.
And the touch that I'm thinking is that Adrian Toomes is the grandfather, right?
Right.
Imagine if it's actually Starling's father.
Hmm. That's an interesting point. Yeah,
Right?
I actually didn't think about
We
that.
would assume it's the grandfather because he's the known quantity
Right.
that we're familiar with.
Right.
But imagine if Ahmed decides to subvert it just a touch and move it a generation, because I don't think we're that familiar with who Starling's father actually is.
I believe you're right. So that would be interesting. And then they end up making a family affair, and then Toombs ends up coming back and comes back for, on one side or the other.
Right.
That'd be interesting. I would, if that's the case, then I welcome it. Like I said,
The only reason why I thought of that is, think of teenage girls' parents, right?
yeah,
You
true.
know, that's what popped into my mind while I was reading. I'm reading it when I thought, I wonder who's behind this particular Taskmaster contract.
Right.
There's the obvious, and then we'll see if they, as I said, subvert our expectations.
Sure. Yeah. Like I said, only time will tell. So
Right.
let us move on. I guess we're already on to.
We're going to go to rapid fire because we come to the point in the show where our comic book roads diverge. Like Robert Frost said, in the wood, and I took the road slightly less traveled because I have fewer books. So I am going to spin up the minigun and start our rapid fire segment. Here we go.
Ain't got time to breathe.
All right, so to wrap up the few books that I have, I will continue with Eternals number 7. It's written by Kieron Gillen, with art by Esad Rabich, colors by Matthew Wilson, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. Now, I've already discussed this book with Roddykat off the air just prior to the start of the show, and I'm not going to spoil anything really about the story, but I've already spoken to Roddykat in very broad strokes about what seemed to be happening in this issue, because it is the start of a new arc. It does not actually pick up on some of the story elements that were in the Eternals one-shots that were in between that first arc and this arc. What those one-shots seemed to do was to what those two particular issues seemed to do was to tie some of the current Eternals lore into what was going to be portrayed in the MCU Eternals movie. In this issue specifically, we're dealing with characters that had specific storylines going, progressing in that first arc prior to those one shots, and now we're getting to the next logical steps for several characters. And that's what picks up here in this issue. We have a particular character, and it's not a big spoiler because this particular character is, one, on the cover, and two, played a prominent role in that first arc. We have Thanos, the Eternal of Titan, making a move in the world of the Eternals. That's the best way to put it. Making a move for a position of authority in the world of the Eternals. And a lot of stuff moves forward from there. Druig is essentially the character that we've all assumed Druig is and has always been. But, we definitely are seeing Druig be a catalyst in the story with regards to Thanos' part in the story. On the flip side, we also see how the Eternals and the Deviants are exploring different aspects of their relationship. So I'm going to try to reread Eternals 1 through 6 again, because I think I dropped this book at 6 and didn't pick up the 2 one-shots. So I'm going to have to reread them and see if I want to pick up number 7, and see if I want to continue with 7. So that is Eternals number 7. Like I said, trying not to spoil it, I think Roddykat may pick this book up and read it after the show, in between the show and the upcoming show. Next up is Venom #1. It's written by Al Ewing and Ram V. It's co-written by those two. Pencils are by Brian Hitch in a big return to the House of Ideas. Inks are by Andrew Curry. Colors are by Alex Sinclair. And letters by VC's Clayton Cowell. So when I told Roddykat I read this, I framed it this way. We have become fans of Al Ewing. Roddykat was a fan much more so than I was prior to the Immortal Hulk. But I decided to give Immortal Hulk a big, a big chance, and I stuck with it. And it turns out I was right to stick with it. And I think I got Roddykat to jump on that bandwagon, or stay on that bandwagon, because I know that he was a big fan of the Ewing Avengers books, when we were in that whole multiple Avengers titles period of time. What we get here in this Venom book is Al Ewing and Ram V expanding upon Donny Cates's expansion of the Venom lore and history. We get different aspects of the expansion of the history, as well as expansion upon the developments that we saw at the end of Cates's run on Venom. So we see where that could possibly be going, and we basically pick up maybe a few months after we left these characters at the end of Cates's run. So I would say, if you are a fan of Venom, you're going to be excited by this book. If you're not a fan of Venom, or carry maybe only a passing interest in the book, it's probably still worth picking up, because I think Al Ewing and Ram V are going to put a pretty decent spin on this and be able to tell a solid story. I'm going to try to keep up with this. I may not physically pull this, but I'm going to try to keep up with this and see where it goes, because I have some faith in Al Ewing, and with Ram V as a writing partner on this book, it definitely piques my interest. And those are my rapid fire books of the week.
So here's my question on that, because if you look at the flavor text on Comixology, they are really, really trying to sell this book with the creative team, rightly so, because between Al Ewing and Ram V, they've been doing some good stuff. Now here's the question I have for you. According to this what it says here, and I'm quoting from Comixology's the write-up of this, or writing of this. They say, as if that wasn't enough, they've been joined by industry legend Brian Hitch, who is leaving it all on the page.
Yeah. Talk about hyperbole, huh?
Exactly. So I'm sitting here and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we know. Wait, is it Brian Hitch that we know that sometimes has an issue? I mean, sometimes has delays in his art, or am I thinking of somebody else?
I was about to say, Roddy, we have been doing this show for many, many years. There are multiple artists.
This is true.
That can be who can be described using those exact words.
But usually, when this person comes up, he's usually like, well, we don't know if they're going to be on this book longer than the first arc, because of the fact that they don't normally like a Cassidy or somebody. But I don't know. I don't know if it's Hitch we're talking about or not.
I think he would be one of those I think he would be one of those artists.
Right.
I don't think he's the main. I don't think he would be the main artist that we would describe that way, but he's one of them.
Right. Well, yeah, and that was my point. Like, I'm not saying he's the only one, but he's definitely one of them. So, but that being said, but even if that wasn't the case, I suspect the fact
he's not I was going to say he's not the worst offender in that case.
Right. Okay. That's a little bit more. Okay, that's a little bit better context there. Then, I mean, Brian Hitch's art, great. We're not disputing that. And I suspect they get him just to kind of kick this arc off, regardless of whether he was, whether that is the case or not. And they're probably going to switch over to another artist in the next arc. I suspect.
Right. Or they may already have figured out that they're going to alternate arcs. just to make sure that Hitch can stay on schedule.
Sure. Yeah, I suspect that he's probably not gonna be on this book that long though. But like I said, because this is not the first time they've done this. It's like, hey, let's get the big artist to kind of kick this book off, and then they'll just get somebody regularly to do it. Like we've seen this a few half a dozen times.
So, I don't disagree, but I have a feeling that if Hitch wants to kind of make a mark on a Marvel book, they're probably going to have him alternate arcs. Just that seems to be their pattern.
Mm-hmm.
It worked with it's worked with some of the big artists that were on Black Cat, some of the artists that were on the Hoxpox books, where they alternated arcs.
Sure.
Just so they could stay on schedule. So.
Yeah, but I feel like that's a slightly different reason though, because there was a lot of that coming out at a given time.
Right, but at the same time, it's a strategy that I think the editors can now use.
Sure.
To make sure that these artists can stay on top of their books.
Sure,
so,
I got you.
Anyway,
but,
you can.
But that leads me to a question though. What do you think of the art in this one, in this issue?
I thought it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was okay. I think Hitch's art has gotten more. I hate to put it this way. It's become more fluid, and I don't know if that's his strong suit. I kind of liked Hitch's art when it was seriously grounded in reality, in Ultimates.
Okay.
And it's gotten a little bit more fantastical. Some of the body positioning and anatomy has gotten a little bit more elongated. You may see that here. It was part of my criticism of his work on that Batman limited series that he did, that he I think just finished up over the last couple of years.
Okay.
It was coming out during the course of the pandemic. So I forget what it's called, like The Many Deaths of Batman or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I forget exactly what it's called. I'll have to look that up. But ultimately,
Batman's Grave.
Say again?
Was it Batman's Grave?
I don't recall.
Either way, it doesn't.
I don't
know.
I mean, I'll Google it, but at the end of the day, that's my criticism. I think his art was stronger when it was more grounded in reality, but it's his style, and it's recognizably his style. He still draws good faces, which is one of his strongest suits. And sometimes that's an aspect of comic book art that is oftentimes one of the weaker things, one of the weaker points of several artists. So he definitely still has his strengths as a comic book artist. So I would say just take a look at this as a number one. I know that you weren't keeping up with the Cates run, so you'll basically be caught up to speed on the status quo of Venom and the various symbiotes that are still kind of running around in this issue.
Right. Okay. Well, that being said, we'll go to rapid fire we'll go to rapid fire on my side since Agent 7 is and actually I'm gonna skip a book, and I probably shouldn't do this because there's a weird tie in what I'm about to go into, and that is Avengers Tech on Avengers number 4. I believe this is the penultimate issue. I don't remember, but this is pretty much this is not I would safe to say that this is not an in-canon book. This is pretty much a almost a manga like Avengers story. Because of this thing, and it is also based on a toy line that is currently out. So there you go. Not unlike that Avengers Max Strike that we talked about. But the creative team is writer Jim Zub, art by Jeffrey Chamba Cruz, letters by VC's Travis Lanham. I'm just going to say 2 words, and I believe Agent 70, whether he's going to read this book or not, will get this reference. Perfect Ultron.
Ah!
But that only plays a small part of this issue in a way, because it's still the Avengers versus Red Skull and their mech suits, all mech suits made out of Infinity Stone pieces or dust or whatever the case may be. But definitely pulls a little bit of inspiration from Age of Ultron in a small way on both sides. But when things get thick, who comes into the fold? Black Panther in his own mech suit, which means that's another toy that that's probably already out that they have introduced with the story, and also actually technically too, given what they're going up against. But at the end of this, and here comes where the tie is to what Agent 70 just spoke about. There's a third party of the symbiotic kind who has also joined the party in a way that we don't know the full extent of, but I guess we'll see in the next issue. I say it's a penultimate issue, but I don't necessarily know, but because of that introduction, or not necessarily introduction, because I believe this character has probably been back there somewhere. But it could be 6 issues. I don't know. I'm about to find out at this point, and it's probably irrelevant. Yeah, it is 6 issues actually. I just saw that. So yeah, so we got 2 more issues in this of this, and that will complete that. As I move something around in my notes, I'm just going to say that my next book is Magic number 8, aka Magic the Gathering number 8, because apparently they either dropped or never had the gathering part of that. But nevertheless, this is a book in the world of Magic the Gathering, the card game that so many people, including myself, enjoy. The creative team on this book is one of our newer favorites, Jed McKay as the writer, Iguar as the illustrator, colors by Ariada Consani, and letters by Ed Dukeshire. So this takes up after last issue's fight with this cult that was trying to take over Ravnica, but it was also a part of a bigger scheme that is still ongoing. But yeah, we basically see our trio of guild masters kind of recouping from that. But also, before I go any further, in reading up on this particular issue, there seems to be a tie-in with another, I don't know if it's a one-shot, but there's another book that's not out yet, which I think is going to come out in another week or two, that is tied into this issue, because a character that shows up who is in the lore of Magic the Gathering just so happens to come and helps, unexpectedly helps the team with some bit of information in exchange for amnesty, or basically not necessarily amnesty. This was the bad guy that that is well known well of, but just happens to get absolved of his crimes for helping these folks out. But seems to be having some schemes of his own, which is seeming like it's going to be playing in this other book that's coming out in the next couple of weeks. So while the plot in this book and this other big bad that's going on in the main book is still going on, they kind of use this to kind of tie it into this other book that's coming in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see what that's. I will definitely see what's going on with that when that happens. But we definitely get a good bit of exposition about the seeming plot of the big bad and some ominous portents therein. Next up is Static, Season 1, Number 4. Written by Vida Ayala. Layouts by Chris Cross. Finishes and colors by Nicholas Draper Ivy. Letters by And World Design. This one is the potential click of the week for me. Because, well, one is partially because of the beginning. So basically, the Men in Black fake feds, as I called them, are pretty much looking for all the bang babies, and they come up to the house of Virgil Hawkins, who we know is Static and also has his powers at this point. But the community, nor his family, are having this, so they kind of deal with that situation very quickly. But it also leads Virgil to, despite his family's best wishes, but also with their kind of sort of their consent, to go strike out and see what's going on with this larger picture. He knows that a lot of the Bang Babies are getting taken by these men in black. One of which is including the I guess a rival bad guy of his who has a rematch with him at the end of this issue that doesn't seem to go well for Virgil. But after the family, after he talks to the family and kind of tests out some gear, he and his friends kind of go and see what they could do about rescuing some of these folks that have been taken. And I'll just leave it at that. Although the only thing I will say is there was a nice looking Milestone jersey that shows up in the course of this that I hope if they ever do sell as an actual merchandise, I would like it because it looks pretty cool. Enjoying the art. The story's been great so far. As I've said, this is pretty much the reboot of the Milestone Comics character they're in for modern times. So you will see some modern language in here. But it's still been pretty good. Next up, I Am Batman number 3. Oops. Which I thought Agent 70 was going to read, or probably has. I know he read because he reminded me that this was still a thing that's out there.
Right.
But the writing staff, the creative staff is John Ridley on writing, art by Steven Segovia and Kristen Deuce, colors by Rex Locus, and letters by ALW's Troy Pateri. And I guess what little to say about this is it's a Fair States tie-in. And if y'all are not keeping up with what's going on in DC right now, DC is pretty much the prelude, I guess, to Future State, which has already happened this year. So that's continuously to be weird to me, and it's gonna every time we talk about this, it's going to come up. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. But in a little ripped out of the headline situation, there's this kid as of last issue that was pretty much the scapegoat as they're playing it for for this group that he was being influenced by, I guess. So there was the person did get killed. Yeah, so actually, yeah, Anarchy got killed, and they caught the kid that was supposedly responsible of it, but there's a bigger group, like I said, at large in this, which causes a riot to happen because of this. The person behind the scenes is stoking up said violence, which leads the detention center where this kid is being held to be, like I said, to be the cause of to be the place of a riot. But at the same time, the cops and Jace's mom are both there, so they kind of have to hold their own while Jace, who ends up coming into play, is kind of doing his part on the outside. And that's pretty much just of that without going into too much further into it. Like I said, there was some real rip from the headlines imagery in here in a couple of respects. So, but it is what it is. And obviously, it's John Ridley, so I guess you can't help that at some point. And also, I guess, just on my last note on that is there was a particular situation that Jace was dealing with that seemingly got dealt with at the end of this issue. So we'll see how he feels about that going into the next issue. Savage Avengers number 26. The book that's
still going on. The book that seemingly will never die, and apparently this issue is living proof of that. I mean, what we see here is what I did do in this book. I didn't read it, but I flipped to the end and I saw that the story technically is going to be concluded in the next issue.
But they've been saying that for the last couple of issues, though. So that's not really saying this. I've seen to be concluded in the last couple of hell, probably the last 4 or 5 at some point, but still the last couple of issues. So it's kind of crazy. But anyway, it's written by
the
Jerry.
Undead Avengers book.
Kinda in a actually kind of in a
literal sense.
Yeah. Written by Jerry Duggan, art by Patch Zerker, color artist by Java Tartaglia or Hava Tartaglia, letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So yeah, last issue there was a big knockdown drag out fight between Old Man Conan in a Doctor Doom suit and Kunin Gath. Well, that fight went a certain way. Including going back to actually as Agent 70 said earlier with the Thing book, there was a Mortal Kombat fatality that was kind of used in here, which still didn't end things because there was another person that ends up coming into play. Well, not coming into play, but that has been in play for the last couple of issues, and that is one King the Conqueror. Who kind of does some things in this issue, and then there's another big knockdown, drag down fight with a whole bunch of with a whole team of Savage Avengers. And even at the end of this, it's still not done. This is like the Dragon Ball Z of freaking books right here. Because even when you thought the fight is over, somebody's like, "Oh wait, you thought that was it? No, that's not it." And as Agent 70 said, when you look and skim the end of it, it's totally not it. And it's kind of ridiculous, but it's still kind of funny. Because like I said, this is the book that we thought was going to end like a good 10, 15 issues ago. And did not. So yeah, stay tuned for whenever this thing, like we could be here 3 years from now, it's still going to be concluded or something. What's next? Oh, Transformers Wreckers, Treads and Circuits number 2. So this is the miniseries of, or this is another miniseries in the Transformers universe based on the Wreckers, not necessarily the ones from the old series. This is a new group. Like I said the last time that this book came up, they're more of the pole position / mask / they have a cover that they're using, but not very well to infiltrate this race on this one planet that decides that base their system of government election based on who wins this race. But of course the bad guys are not having it and want to get rid of this, which they could very well be right in this. We don't who's to say. And they have also entered the race. But there's some other side stuff with one of the characters, or with a couple of the characters going on, and one of them kind of meets an issue during the course of this issue that may take them out of the fight for the rest of this miniseries. Who's to say? But before that happens, this Cybertronian meets up with somebody they knew that, I don't know if we're supposed to know him, but they know him from another time and place. And actually I forgot the creative team. So the writing on this is David Marriott, art by Jack Lawrence, colors by Brittany Pierce, not Spear, sorry. That's totally not right. Brittany Pierre, letters by Jake M. Wood. And that is that. And my last book, but not least, is Excalibur number 25. As I pull up this, there it is right there. Boop. Creative team, writer Tinny Howard, artist Marcus Toe, color artist Eric Arciniega, and letters by VC's Joe Caramanga.
Yeah. Say one thing I wanted to note on this is a shout out to Marcus Toe for sticking with this book. Indeed. He's been on since Jump. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think he's done every issue. Obviously, he needs breaks here and there.
Right.
But he's been on Excalibur since they relaunched it during Hoxbox or after Hoxbox.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just, and the art's been pretty consistent. I can safely say. And I didn't make any notes of this, but basically, there's a siege going on in Otherworld. Merlin's trying to usurp Saturnine, and apparently at the end of this book may or may not have done that. We don't. There was a lot going on in this issue. I don't know if Agent 70 had a chance to skim through this or not, or plans on it. But there's yeah, some things end up happening, not necessarily finally, or with any finality, but like I said, there's a whole big ass thing going on. It seems to be going back and forth, but at the end, it kind of goes one way without giving it away. And Excalibur is kind of on one side of this, fight. And also Betsy and Saturnine end up someplace. I think we're supposed to know, but we're not going to talk about that right now. And that is it, folks. Because I didn't get a chance to read Hellions, but I heard something happen in there this week. But regardless,
I was about to say, Hellions is winding down. I think they're about to reach the end of that particular volume
I believe
or
that's
run.
true. Mm-hmm.
So,
which is weird because they kind of could have done that a couple of issues ago with, or a few issues ago with how it ended. But apparently, not unlike Savage Avengers, I guess they had a couple more things to get out of the way.
Gotcha. All right, so I guess we've got clicks of the week incoming.
Mm-hmm, we do. And we do have one, surprisingly enough, from Dirt, who says that his is, which luckily I ended up pulling this book's cover, so that's great. What's the furthest place from here? Number 1 from Image Comics. He says, let's see. He read it, it was fine, so I guess that was his default click. Okay, the main problem, it really didn't seem to push the story in a particular direction for the follow-up, but the world building was good, according to him.
Okay. I mean, I had this pulled to read in terms of, especially, we've said this before. I do my best to try out number 1 issues.
Same.
So I have this on my list of things to try to get to this week. I just couldn't get to it. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to see, to see if PCN_Dirt's take on the book stands up after I take a look at it. So, all right, thanks.
All right. Yeah, we didn't get anything from Tim, but he's probably been busy.
Do you have? I know you have candidates. I can tell you that, based on my limited amount of reading this week, my candidates are essentially Strange Academy and probably I want to say probably Miles, because I enjoyed Taskmaster, kind of beating up on Starling and Miles. I kind of got a kick out of that. I'm just like, oh, he's just punking them left and right. So I think those are my two. The Thing issue, the first issue was okay to me. I still bumped on the whole, the Thing being weakened by pepper spray. We both understand the technical reasons why the Thing would still be vulnerable to a pepper spray, macing to hit the face. Mm-hmm. But it's still, I still bumped very hard on it. Obviously, it makes a ton of sense, as I said, but I bumped so hard on it. So it might take me a while to kind of recover from that. So I will probably go with Strange Academy number 13, just because I thought it's the latest in a string of very strong issues.
Right. Yes, and we've said this multiple times. Strange Academy has been consistently a great book. So I can't fault you for that. And while that is definitely one of my potentials, that Static Season 1 number 4 is also one, and I guess Miles was also one for me, in a way. Weirdly enough, and as much as I hate to say this, amazing was kind of almost a potential click. And that is only on the strength of the fact that you got Monarch Rambo and you got Daughters of the Dragon, you know, and they're what's
We got the stronger, we got the stronger Beyond Corp next wave connection in that issue. Yeah, I definitely feel it. I feel you on that.
And I hated myself for the introduction because again, like we've not been caring about seeing this book, seeing this arc or whatever this.
Definitely have not been looking at it with a kind eye.
Yes,
we're basically, and we, you know, and our cynicism reigns supreme on that, as Roddykat is want to, you know, he likes to mention the fact that I put it out on, you know, out on Front Street right at the beginning that I suspected, and it's turned out exactly that way, that this book would continually feed us little snippets of what's going on with Peter Parker, just to keep us on the hook. And it's happening. It's actually still it's happening. Whether or not they kind of try to cut it off, like literally cut it off the way Slott did back during whatchamacallit, Superior Spider-Man, where he made it appear that the spirit of Peter Parker was finally extinguished. So we don't know if that's going to happen in this book.
Which even then was kind of a stupid way to handle it, but we let it ride.
Right.
Damn it, I forgot to read Black Manta. I knew there was something I was gonna had intended to read, but oh well. Black Manta number 3 is out there for those. Maybe I'll talk about this at some other point. But my click of the week is going to, I will go with this. Static Season 1 number 4 is going to be my click of the week. Like I definitely enjoyed Strange Academy and Miles and even that Magic book and whatever I said about Amazing, but I am definitely going to go with Static. Actually, weirdly enough, it actually made me go back and want to watch the show, as if that wasn't going to happen already. But
the animated show, right?
Yes. Because even going into this, I was like, well, because there are some things that happen in this book we know was not going to happen. I mean, did not definitely happen in the show, because if you know anything about the original version of Static Shock, he had a different costume than the one that's on the show, and I suspect at some point he might get it in this book. But it's a starkly different costume for one. In fact, the even when he put it on in this one, I'm surprised they actually kept that, because it's one from the original Milestone run, and there's some interesting imagery that for some folks in the know. Although they don't go into why they're using that, which it doesn't matter, because like I said, this is a retelling or a reboot of the property. So that being said, we are going to go into the news section, but first, an ad read.
All right, our first ad read is for Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torrontés, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your tastes and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off, and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink wines through CSPN. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
Yes, we start as we do about this time with the cinematic news as I pull it up. Whoop. First up, depending on what source you go with, some would say Vin Diesel pleaded, some would say he I don't ask nicely, but whatever. Vin Diesel takes to Instagram to ask Dwayne Johnson to return for Fast 10. Because I saw CNN had an article talking about he was pleading for the Rock to be in. I'm sitting here like, really, CNN, you could do better.
I
But
think you know what's funny about that. I
what's that?
think hold your thought. I think that from certain perspectives, a lot of people think that The Rock, resuscitated the Fast and Furious franchise. I think he injected new blood, but I don't think he resuscitated it because I think Fast Five on its own, as a whole, resuscitated the franchise. So I think he was a part of it, but not the sole reason. So I think there are people who think that he's the sole reason, and that's where those headlines are. People who think that way are the authors of those types of headlines. That's my perspective, at least.
Yeah, I can, I can see that. But as this article says, I mean, Vin Diesel seems to be imploring the Rock to set whatever differences they had, which they had already had. So I don't even know why he's saying it like that, because apparently that whole thing had been quote unquote squashed. By this.
I mean, what was it? The Vanity Fair article that came out, recently in advance of Red Notice and the promos for Black Adam.
Right.
I think part of that kind of brought some of that back to the forefront, even though they didn't really, actively address it. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So stoking the fires for no damn reason. Yeah. Regardless, it is what it is. So Vin Diesel. Instagram, he said, hey, no one, basically it says here, I'm just gonna read the last line of this. Hobbs can't be played by no other. I hope that you rise to the occasion and fulfill your destiny, like he's the emperor or something. Like what is what is going on here with that?
That's so funny.
Like I said, it's an amusing. Now here's okay, hold on, I should read out, I'm gonna read out this whole thing, I'm sorry. My little brother Dwayne, the time has come. The world awaits the finale of Fast. I'm not gonna do that because I can hurt my voice. As you know, my children refer to you as Uncle Wayne in my house. There is not another, and if you're watching the video version of this, you can see this. So there's not a holiday that goes by that they don't send, by that they and you don't send well wishes. But the time has come. Legacy awaits. I told you years ago that I was going to fulfill my promise to Pablo. I swore that we would reach and manifest the best fast in the finale that is 10. Which I could have sworn they said there was 2 more coming, but sure, okay. I say this out of love, but you must show up. Do not leave the franchise idle. You have.
Oh, there are 2 coming. They're splitting 10 into 2 parts. That's my understanding.
Oh, okay. I was thinking it was like an 11 and 12 situation, but that's even dumber. Anyway, to finish this up, I say this out of love.
It's a Harry Potter.
Yeah, I know. Or Twilight or whatever other stupidity. Or Lord of the Rings. Actually,
I went to Harry Potter. You went to Twilight.
I mean, they've done this because. Well, yeah, because I think Harry Potter was the first one to do it, and then Twilight followed it up, and I think some other franchise did it also. I can't remember. It doesn't really matter at this point. Unnecessarily making one thing into 2, so stupid. But anyway, I say this out of love, but you must show up. Do not leave the franchise out of the blah, blah, blah. I already said that last part. This whole thing was like, really? I was like, that is the most overwrought Instagram post that I have ever read, I believe, and I feel like that's not hyperbole me saying that. It was just funny though when I saw this. So that's the thing. Whether The Rock answers it or whatever the case may be, we will see. Next up.
Oh boy! All right. So the upcoming Star Wars series, The Acolyte, will explore the rise of. Oh, I just opened this. I'm an idiot. We'll explore the rise of the dark side. So we really don't know that much about the upcoming live-action Star Wars series, The Acolyte. The initial description explained it as, quote, a mystery thriller that will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. So, thanks to a new report from the Illuminati, we have some new details to share with you that offer some interesting additional insight. The High Republic is set 200 years before the Skywalker saga begins. This era has only been explored in a series of books and comics so far. It is the golden age of the Jedi. This series, however, the Acolyte, will cover the period of this era where the prosperity of the Jedi comes to an end. The new report says the story for the series will, quote, specifically explore the rise of the dark side. In those final days of the High Republic era, the Acolyte has the opportunity to explore the dark side in a way the franchise never has on screen before. I guess at this point, we're going to find out whether there can really be only another.
Indeed.
The show is being developed by showrunner Leslie Headland, and she previously revealed that the series was heavily inspired by The Phantom Menace. I'm not going to go into this. That actually gives me pause.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit. I will go. I guess I will take this time to say that we are on the eve of Disney Plus Day.
Oh, yes.
So I would probably strongly believe that we are going to get more information on this and some other things tomorrow, as of the time of this recording, which is November 11th.
Point. I completely spaced on that because that is probably going to be a source of much of our news story, of many of our news stories next week.
Oh yes, I believe that is the case. So stay tuned
Right,
for that.
and for Roddykat to have a chance to finally watch Shang-Chi.
Yes, indeed. Which actually, there's something on. Speaking of, actually, Disney Plus will let you watch Shang-Chi and 12 other Marvel movies in large IMAX format. So apparently, okay, please stop. Okay, that's just a thing. Marvel superheroes about to get bigger on your TV. Disney Plus announced today, as of November 8th, rather, that it's adding an expanded IMAX aspect ratio for 13 Marvel titles, including Shang-Chi and Black Panther on November 12th, aka Disney's Day. And it goes into the aspect ratio. Will look up to 20% taller than the typical widescreen format in Marvel films, so those annoying black bars will almost disappear while you're watching scenes shot in IMAX. You'll still see some slight bars, though, as the IMAX format doesn't completely fill 16:9 widescreen TVs. So, yeah, before this, the Disney Plus partnership, IMAX and DTS brought the IMAX enhanced home viewing format to a handful of TV streaming services like Sony's Bravia Core, which who knows what the heck that is even anymore. See, IMAX-ified films will have a prominent label on their Disney Plus screens, and you'll be able to launch the standard widescreen version if you prefer. Excuse me, I don't know what's going on. Hiccups or burpees. Physical Blu-ray collectors are already used to shifting IMAX aspect ratios in some films, most notably The Dark Knight, Tenet, and Mission Impossible, followed by yada, yada, yada. But regardless, so yeah, starting tomorrow, you will see some IMAX-ified Marvel movies on Disney Plus. And again, I'm pretty sure they will go over this again on tomorrow during their Disney Plus Day shenanigans. Next up,
weeks after Sony dropped the first teaser trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home, the studio finally released the first official teaser poster for the upcoming blockbuster. Similar to an ad released in Australia last week, the official poster adds some more artwork in the background, namely the Green Goblin hovering on his glider. As you might suspect, fans of the Spider-Man franchise quickly celebrated the character's official confirmation, getting the iconic villain to trend within minutes of the poster's official release. And I'm like, duh, unless they were going to have the Hobgoblin chucking one of those pumpkin bombs. So,
which that would be an interesting move for them to do.
Exactly. So ultimately, this wasn't as big a deal to me, but I guess people love having confirmation.
Sure. And if you're watching the video version, you can see the poster along with a zoomed in image of said character. which looks like it was photoshopped in the picture.
Right.
But next up, let's see. Supergirl series finale fight is a family affair. It's a family affair. Let's see. Supergirl's latest episode saw how much trouble the Truth Totem causes. Through its lasso of truth-like powers, the totem convinced Nixley to trust Lex Luthor, setting up the duo to be stronger than ever as a villainous power couple ready to fight the Super Friends. Stronger than before. But basically, let's see. Supergirl is ending. There's a 2-hour finale, and I believe it has happened by now. And yes, November 9th. So at this time, you would have already seen it if you were watching that show. And apparently everybody not everybody, but a lot of people showed up for it. And it was a whole thing. But this article has a clip from said finale that you could check out if you have not watched the episode yet. So have at it. Next up.
All righty. So in a story that screams it's because of the supply chain, but we can kind of guess that it's not. But, chalk it up to the pandemic, thanks COVID. Transformers Rise of the Beasts has been pushed a year in a new Star Trek movie to beam up over Christmas 2023. So this is just in from Paramount. Transformers Rise of the Beasts will no longer be opening on June 24th, 2022, but rather a little bit less than a year later on June 9th, 2023. The new Star Trek movie that's been in development won't launch on June 9th, 2023, but rather 6 months later, a little bit more than 6 months later, on December 22nd, 2023. So these are some delays over at Paramount Pictures.
Yes, please do not reboot Roadhouse. This is totally unnecessary. Next up, though,
Wait, where did that come from?
the on the bottom of that Deadline article, there was there was another article.
I gotcha.
Yeah, Animaniacs.
Probably closed that article too quickly to see it. Okay.
I should have closed it before I saw that, but hey, it is what it is. Animaniacs revives a canceled Looney Tunes character to cancel him over again. And I guess this is a spoiler for the new season, which I guess has started. I'm not sure.
I was about to say I haven't watched it, so I can't tell you. I gotta jump on Hulu and check that out.
Yeah. So then I won't go into who it is and what it is, but
I already saw it in our summary, so go ahead. It's fine.
Okay. Well, then in that case, Pepe Le Pew, who was also recently cut from.
My Shelly.
Huh?
That's that my Shelly.
So yes, and this article
Basically,
notes,
Pepe Le Pew was like Gambit, for the Looney Tunes era.
Kind of, but well, not. Yes, kind of,
not nearly as Baby It's Cold Outside. I get you.
Yeah, exactly. But so I don't remember if we talked about this when this happened, but Pepe Le Pew was cut from Space Jam: A New Legacy, which probably is not the only thing that should have been cut from that movie, but we're not going to talk about that.
Should have been cut. Oh no, shots fired! Did I say shots fired? I really mean shots were fired.
Indeed. But it says here Pepe hasn't been.
Hey, I didn't even watch the movie, and I feel like LeBron should have been cut from the movie. But anyway,
that movie probably shouldn't have even happened. I did watch it, so I can say that. I mean, it was yeah, man, that movie. You should watch it. You shouldn't watch it, but you should watch it.
And ringing endorsement Roddykat gives. Gotcha.
Hey, look, I call him like I see him. So, but yeah, so back to this though. Apparently, Pepe Le Pew showed up on the Animaniacs in a recent episode and got rubbed out. Actually, I guess literally, according to what this image implies. So yeah. Oh wait, yeah. See, the Pepe cameo occurs in the first segment of Animaniacs season 2, episode 7. So there's been 7 episodes already in season 2.
I'm sure they did a bunch. I don't think they. I don't think they do. They're distributing it on a weekly basis.
Right.
I'm gonna point. I'm gonna you know I'm gonna pull it up now and check it out. But I don't think they posted them on a weekly basis like the way they some shows have been kind of copying the Marvel formula.
Right.
So
Also,
let's.
I mean, also, I don't know the use of the word canceled in this article. You know, I don't feel some kind of way about that. 'Cause, like, this is getting low. I'm not gonna
It's
go.
time for
I'm not gonna go all
Animaniacs.
cancel culture isn't real or
Yeah,
whatever
no,
because
all
maybe,
yeah.
but
It looks like they're all up.
okay,
The seasons are all up. There's 13 episodes in total for season 2.
gotcha. I still haven't seen season 1, but I'll get to those now that I have access. But regardless, that is a thing. You can go check it out for yourself. Next.
Sorry, I'm literally poking around on my iPad to take a look at Animaniacs. All right, next and last up in our cinematic news, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean trailer reveals a Netflix release date. The Bizarre Adventure continues. A new trailer for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean reveals when the highly anticipated anime will premiere on Netflix. Blah 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 blah. Stone Ocean adapts part 6 of the manga and brings the action to 2011 Florida. Why on earth would you visit Florida in any time period? The most significant addition to this season is the first female protagonist of the show, Joylene. So let's see when the date is. So now what's been revealed is that the first 12 episodes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean will premiere December 1st on Netflix. So if you are interested, tune into Netflix at that time.
JoJo's. Yeah.
Yeah, admittedly, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, partially thanks to Roddykat's very frank review of the series in general, is a little lower on my anime list to watch.
It should have been
It's just
higher because
it's
of what I
there. It's
said.
there. It's just a little lower.
It should have
Believe it
been
or not,
higher.
I'm trying to restart my Naruto watch finally
Oh
because
God.
it's been a while. I've been doing a lot of short animes, but now I'm like, you know what? Let me jump into something that's a little bit longer and has a lot of lore to it, like Naruto, because it has that and Shippuden after that, and that's a lot of episodes to kind of make my way through. So I think I'm ready now after doing a bunch of short ones.
I'm just gonna put this out here. You can get through JoJo's way faster than you could get through Naruto at this point.
Right. I mean, I understand what those headbands are now, you know, that I see everyone wearing, but, you know, at cons and whatnot and in pictures. But ultimately, I feel like I'll get more out of watching Naruto and figuring out, you know, some of the cultural influences that it's had, and some of the influence that it's had on our popular culture.
Sure. You know
Um,
what? And it might even
you know,
set you up for some JoJo's in a very small way.
right. I would also say that I think that at least in the popular culture here in the United States, I think Naruto has had a bigger effect than One Piece, even though I know worldwide One Piece has a much bigger footprint in terms of its readership and its viewership. So at least that's my anecdotal reason for starting on Naruto as opposed to jumping into One Piece, which is ridiculous.
Hmm.
Like I said, purely anecdotal on my part.
Yeah. I'm saying the One Piece thing, which is at this point to me slightly impenetrable, knowing what it is,
Mm-hmm.
is because of the length of it, and also, whoops, sorry about that. The length of it, and I don't know. I feel like that's more of a. I'm sure I'm gonna catch something from. I don't care. Probably a more millennial thing, because.
Roddycat's looking to catch some strays right now.
Whatever. Fight me.
That's funny.
Because even as long as the One Piece is burned out, I was like, yeah, I see much younger people than I am getting into to One Piece. I'm like, you know what, y'all can have that.
All right.
But regardless, moving right along to the comic book news. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Hit the thing.
Oh, yes, we are going to transition. I didn't even, I completely spaced on the fact that we had reached the end of the cinematic news. I really did.
Insomniac's Wolverine will feature gouges, severs, and gashes. Yeah, so apparently little is known officially about Marvel's Wolverine. Rather, Marvel's Wolverine's announcement teaser set the stage for the game's violent tone, which is appropriate since Wolverine is arguably one of Marvel's most violent characters. So apparently skipping just a little bit of this, Drew Murray from Insomniac has recently shared a job posting from Sean McCabe, Insomniac's head of technology, about a gameplay programmer role at Insomniac. Murray chimes in to depict the degree of brutality in Marvel's Wolverine when he states that the respective programmer will be responsible for cuts, slashes, gouges, severs, gashes, stabs, snicks, and everything else that goes with moving and playing as Logan. So take that for what you will. If they could find who was ever associated with X-Men Origins Wolverine, they may want to hire some of them if they don't already have to. I'm not saying X-Men Origins Wolverine is a great game, but it does what it does as a kind of a God of War-ish type situation. But you take that for what it is, and I say that as a person who has recently replayed that in the past year, in this past year actually.
Oh.
And you can go on my Twitch channel if you want to go see highlights of that. But do it what you will. So yeah, and if there's some prospective programmer looking for a job at Insomniac, because Lord knows if I had the skills, I would. There you go. Next up.
We finally get a first look at Spider-Man in Marvel's Avengers video game. So IGN can exclusively reveal the introductory trailer for Spider-Man in Marvel's Avengers video game, which shows off Crystal Dynamics' take on Peter Parker for the first time. The trailer is a cinematic rather than straight gameplay, but gives us an idea of Spider-Man's acrobatic moveset, web shooting abilities, and all but confirms web swinging and wall crawling across the game's environments. Okay.
Yeah, I believe this is the last big one that people have been looking forward to, and this one got delayed just like the Black Panther one did, but at least the Black Panther one was out. So yeah, so now that's finally coming. To round out the DLC for Marvel's Avengers. I can't remember, but regardless, it's coming at some point. The X-Men and the Black Panther enter. Wait a moment. The X-Men and the Black Panther. I said the Black Panther anyway. So the X-Men and the Black Knight entered the Death of Doctor Strange event together. I mean, it's not that big of a surprise at this point because we kind of know why the Black Knight is involved. Marvel's The Death of Doctor Strange continues in December and continues to expand the
synergy. That's why.
And continues to expand that same month with the event's latest tie-in one-shot, Death of Doctor Strange X-Men Black Knight #1, which will be on sale December 19th. Wow, I got a lot of tabs open on this one. The unusual hero pairing is written by Cy Spurrier with art by his Way of X partner, Bob Quinn, and the cover by Corey Smith. Spurrier was also the writer of the recent Black Knight Curse of the Ebony Blade limited series, which I never read. Did you?
Say again?
I said Cy Spurrier wrote that Black Knight Curse of the Ebony Blade limited series.
I don't think I read that. I think I read the Frank Thierry Black Knight, but not that one.
Gotcha. Oh, was that the one where he was in Weird World?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I didn't read that one either. Regardless, I guess this article is kind of going on to explain why the two are pairing up, and it's as I feel like shortcutting it by saying echoing what Agent 70 said, synergy, corporate synergy. So But yeah, it kind of goes into what this whole thing is about. We'll talk about that when we get there. Next up.
Next up, so this is interesting to me because I didn't, when I saw some of the advertisements for this or the teasers of this, I was like, they're doing a what team?
Mm-hmm.
So these aren't the X-Men This is straight from Marvel, but they are a force to be reckoned with. The X-Men vote candidates, these are the characters who were listed on the ballot, have now come together for a vital mission in Teenie Howard and Francesco Mobili's Secret X-Men #1 that is due out this February. So Strong Guy, Forge, Tempo, Boom Boom, Marrow, Armor, Cannonball, Sunspot, and Banshee were listed early this year as X-Men characters who were choices in the mega popular X-Men vote. While they ultimately were not chosen as the final member of the Krakoan Age's first team of X-Men, the vote took social media by storm, blah, 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 blah. So now these characters are seeing their chosen candidate. These fans are seeing their chosen candidates in action in Secret X-Men #1. This special one-shot, written by Excalibur and Ten of Swords scribe Teenie Howard, and drawn by Daredevil artist Francesco Mobili, will bring all 9 of these mutant heroes together for a secret mission to the stars. So when the Shi'ar Empire faces an unexpected threat, they must call upon the X-Men, and team co-captain Sunspot and Cannonball will lead the rest of these characters on a dangerous mission to save a figure of paramount importance, the daughter of Professor X and Empress of the Shi'ar, Zandra. Okay, yeah, that character has made appearances recently, so it makes sense that they would tie in that character in a current story.
Right, and always someone to be rescued or saved. Also, because when she first got, I think when she first got, she was in that Rogue Gambit miniseries.
Right, and I think they're still exploiting the fact that she's very young.
Right.
She's not as capable as Lalandra
Right.
eventually became. So
right, and in fact, I believe it was recent. Wait, was it?
Was it Sword?
I believe it was.
I think it was an issue of Sword.
Yeah, it was the last issue, if I'm not mistaken. That was the case. It was either because it wasn't Excalibur because they were still doing things. So yeah, I believe it was Sword.
Right, because I think they were on Araco.
Correct.
And
correct.
believe Zandra. I think they used that to introduce some characters who were powerful enough to take down some of the lesser known members of the Imperial Guard.
They damn nearly took them all out. But yes, that's right. Because I think you hadn't read it at the time. So I assume
Exactly.
You had gone back and read that. But yeah, so here we are now. So I kind of feel like the only thing I can say about this, I feel like part of me feels like they kind of had this going on. I was like, well, since these people weren't picked, whoever doesn't get picked, we're just going to put them on a team. I feel like that was the thing. I have no knowledge or no, thought behind that, but I feel like that's kind of something they would have already put out there. So, I mean, I'm gonna read it, so it's
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, as a strategy, a plan B, I get it.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we'll see if it's I mean, Teenie Howard's been doing pretty well so far. So, hey.
It's nice to see them using Sunspot and Cannonball,
Yes.
putting them back up front.
Mm-hmm.
We could use less of Marrow, but hey.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a slight X-Force / U.S. Avengers mix. With some of the same people, obviously, but with wait, because Boom Boom, I don't know if it was on that, but regardless, X-Force. So yeah, we'll see. I guess Armor's back there, so Banshee, who's probably gonna die in the first art. No, stop.
Let's hope not. Let's hope not. Enough of that.
Or turn into a zombie, which that whole thing was real stupid.
Oh God.
Yeah. Anyway, next up.
Hey, shout out to this is actually a call out of Hasbro. We need a Banshee Marvel Legends figure sooner rather than later, please.
I thought wait, there's not one.
Not a Hasbro one.
Oh, okay. So it's a Toy Fair one.
Toy Biz.
Toy Biz, yeah.
Toy.
Excuse me. Iron Man takes on a new superhero identity in Marvel's multiversal Avengers series. The multiverse is taking over the Marvel universe. It's kind of true. Fans have gotten a glimpse of the multiverse in the Loki series, this series, excuse me, and we'll see more in Spider-Man: No Way Home and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. However, Marvel Comics is not looking to be outdone. I don't know how is that being outdone when it's their stuff. Anyway, as the publisher plans to launch Avengers Forever, which again I believe they've done before, a new series focused on the Earth's mightiest heroes from across the multiverse. A preview of December's Avengers Forever #1, written by Jason Aaron, artist Aaron Cooter, and colorist Jason Keith, finds a variant of Tony Stark taking on a new superhero identity that isn't Iron Man. Excuse me. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and spell it because it says it right here. Meet Tony Stark, the Invincible Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm.
In one of the many alternate realities of Avengers Forever, Tony Stark becomes an archaeologist instead of an inventor and takes up the mantle of Ant-Man. In the preview pages, Tony Ant-Man is chased by a swarm of venomized ants, discovers Mjolnir, and attempts to pick it up, and looks over cave drawings depicting the seven symbols representing the prehistoric Avengers. So I guess they're still tying that into whatever this thing is. So yeah, we're not gonna go any further than that, and that's kind of again.
Well,
I'm gonna read
the next, let's say the next story expands upon this a little bit. So let me roll right into that.
Go for it.
So, Avengers Forever trailer has been released by Marvel. This article is written by our very own Tim Adams.
And actually, the last one was too.
98. Oh, was the last one? Oh, I didn't look at it. I have this one in front of me. So, as Roddykat mentioned, Marvel Comics is taking fans on a tour of the multiverse, and specifically here in a trailer for Avengers Forever, the all-new ongoing from Jason Aaron and Aaron Cooter. So what, and if we haven't made this clear before, apparently, and I won't get into the characters, that's what Roddykat just talked about. What happens in this trailer is that, we get a recap of some of the other runs. What we have, also in the trailer, some previews of some upcoming issues and images of upcoming issues. Specifically, we have a description from Jason Aaron saying that Avengers number 50, the upcoming issue, lights the fire. Avengers Forever is the explosion that follows. Jason Aaron explained, a slam-bang supernova of a megabomb that sends shockwaves across all of reality to Earth after Earth that's been defaced by the new multiversal Masters of Evil, who we've seen recently in the pages of Avengers. And we'll see how whether or not the sister Avengers title is going to have any sort of staying power. And this Avengers Forever #1 goes on sale December 22nd. Oh, you're on mute, Roddykat.
That premise sounds slightly familiar, but we're gonna roll with it. Next up, though, and I don't know if 1870 is familiar with this, but 90s Spider-Man spinoff team, the Slingers.
Oh, I remember them.
In February. I do not, but as we have well known, established, my 90s comic reading was a little hazy. So, but yeah, it says if you're a Spider-Man
fan,
that
was Roddykat Woodstock period, apparently. It was a little hazy.
Well, I mean, hey, look, other things was going on outside of comics, so I wasn't
Sure.
Said. Yeah, not to say that there was any other recreational things going on. It totally wasn't. But yeah, if you're a Spider-Man fan of a certain age, you almost certainly remember the Slingers, a team of teen heroes who spun off from Spider-Man in the late 90s. And for those fans who finally remember the oddball team, you're in luck, as the Slingers are coming back coming back this February in Amazing Spider-Man 88 Bay. I hated to read it like that, but there you go.
Yeah, I get it.
Yes, as in that is basically the 0.5 of the Beyond of the Beyond arc. The Slingers originally started out as four separate alternate superhero identities used by Peter Parker at a time when it was too risky to be seen as Spider-Man because he was accused of murder. Taking on a different identity.
They gave me da-na-na.
Taking on which actually that comes into play because they just reissued Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, but that's a whole nother podcast. Taking on a different identity for each of his four ongoing Spider-Man titles of that era, Peter began operating in different titles as Hornet, Ricochet, Dusk, and Prodigy. I did not know of any of this. Four new identities that keyed in on different aspects of Peter's powers, and which also carried their own weapons and abilities. And now I'm slightly kind of wanting to know if this is on Marvel Unlimited, if any of this. If it's not, it probably would be. Huh?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll confirm that while I read the next story. Marvel's Fantastic Four lands a new cosmic miniseries. Marvel Comics announced a new Fantastic Four Infinity comic from Zach Gorman, Stefano Landini, and Ian Herring, and the story is available now. The first issue of this is available now on Marvel Unlimited. Okay. It's a 4-part series.
Mm-hmm. Star Wars writer teases details of Crimson Reign event, which is the next Star Wars event that happened in the comics. Earlier this year, the War of the Bounty Hunters event in the pages of Star Wars comics brought with it a number of exciting reveals, not only for underexplored elements of the franchise, but also bringing it with it new ramifications for what we thought we knew in the narrative. A key component of the narrative was establishing that the criminal organization of the Crimson Dawn was alive and well during the events of the original trilogy, thanks to the leadership of Kira. With the upcoming Crimson Reign event set to explore the next chapter in the organization's history. Writer Charles Soule recently hinted at one of the plot points of the event, which features the Knights of Ren heading to Mustafar. Quote, in Crimson Reign, there are a lot of things that happen, right? It's very, very cool. It's a big, sprawling story. It's the middle chapter of this trilogy. It's a 3-act structure. Soul shared with the Broxium podcast. Act 1 is setup, Act 2 is complication, and Act 3 is resolution. So that's basically a big. that's basically how the Star Wars arcs pretty much go. This is a complication, and one of the complications that happen are that the Knights of Ren pulled a heist on Fortress Vader. I'm not going to go in there further in that, but yeah, some things happen, and yeah, we'll see. As a 5-issue limited series will be the second installment of the trilogy that began in this year's War of the Bounty Hunters crossover, which is still going on, by the way. I think it's starting to end, but still going on as of this recording. Next up.
Oh, I didn't open the story. One moment, folks. All right, what are we up to? Marvel and Dark Horse announced the Art of the Masters of the Universe Revelation. Mattel is seeing success with their new Masters of the Universe Revelation series on Netflix, and now they've teamed up with Dark Horse to announce a new art book for the series, The Art of Masters of the Universe Revelation. Okay.
Yeah. It'll be on sale April 6, 2022, and pre-orders are going on now. Doesn't say how much.
Yes.
Dragon Ball Super completely erases GT from continuity, apparently.
The reason why I'm clapping is that I definitely heeded Roddykat's advice on this and did not watch GT in my massive binge of the Dragon Ball anime. And, I actually am eagerly waiting to listen to the story. Go ahead.
So this is basically about the manga, which I would be surprised if they don't adapt into the upcoming Dragon Ball Super arc.
Eventually,
Yes,
right.
exactly. But it says here that the continuity of expanded Dragon Ball universe has gotten a bit muddied with the story storyline beyond Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. Basically, this article goes on to say that the beginning of Super kind of overwrote GT, which it totally did. Which Akira Toriyama had nothing to do with. Didn't want to have anything to do with. Which is why some of this is going on. But it also says here that Dragon Ball GT wasn't written by Toriyama, like I said, but not adapted to any manga. GT supposedly happens after Z. If folks don't know, Goku was turned back into a cat child. We won't go into any of that. But basically, it says here that the short answer to the posed question, or whatever that might be, is that Dragon Ball Super eliminates GT for a number of reasons, and that this article is going to go into partially because of the fact that Toriyama is writing this.
Okay. This isn't like an announcement or anything. It's just like a position
kind of an
piece.
opinion piece, yeah. But basically, there's some other and actually there's another article that is in the clickbait section about something else that is that I think is going to be going on within Super about Gohan and his power set. So you can check that out in the clickbait section. But the rest of the article pretty much goes on into the differences between Super and GT and why it's being written out, or why it's not canon.
Gotcha. All right. Next up, then, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate is about to get even better for subscribers. Crunchyroll Premium is now available to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members. The news comes courtesy of the Xbox blog and is what was being teased as something orange coming to the service. Okay. The offering itself is courtesy of the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate perks. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, we're all still waiting on what's going to happen with Crunchyroll being bought out by Funimation. So, it's interesting to see that Crunchyroll is still making moves.
Yeah.
On its own, separate from Funimation.
Yeah. And no telling how long that's going to be. And so this is good if you have not subscribed to the service before, or you have another email address that you can use to do this, because it's for new subscribers only, obviously not for people who've been with the service for any length of time, such as myself. So that's kind of a bummer. And it's only for, it must be claimed by February 8th, 2022. Like I said, not valid for people who are already subscribed. And it says that new Crunchyroll users will be able to access 75 days of Crunchyroll Premium Mega Fan at no additional cost. It's still a good deal if you're like, hey, what's this thing about? And, want to poke around Crunchyroll, because I think Crunchyroll is a great service personally. This is not they're not sponsored. I'm just saying for my own personal benefit, I enjoy it. So yeah, there's that. Next up though, Vampire Hunter D to return in audiobook for series. So it seems that the classic gothic tale Vampire Hunter D will return in audiobook format. The story of the vampire known only as D will be adapted by graphic audio into multiple volumes, with the first set to be released on December 15th. Let's see, this goes into who's directing it and the behind the scenes, not behind the scenes, but who's behind it. This is interesting, kind of, because Vampire Hunter D was one of the first I guess modern anime that I've seen back in the day. Whether I'd listen to it, I still think it's worth watching because it's real good. I can't say anything about the sequel, but hey. But if you are a fan of Vampire Hunter D, then you should check this out. Let's see, but you'd have to I guess subscribe to Graphic Audio's Access app and pay $11 or some change US for the privilege to listen to these. Next up.
All right, so I guess this is a minor spoiler. So, Dark Knights of Steel is here, revealing a medieval DC universe featuring. This is from last week. Featuring some amazing variant covers that serve as D&D stats for DC's heroes. So what that means is that these variant covers feature actual Dungeons and Dragons style stats. The world of Dark Knights of Steel, that is one of swords and sorcery, but it still features heroes such as Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. And D&D fans will also be able to play as their favorite DC heroes with new variant covers serving as character sheets, complete with their own unique stats. So this is a little weird because you get, Superman with his highest score being strength at 20, and I'm trying to relate that to what I recall as what a 20 was in D&D when we were playing, or when I was playing when I was younger. But that's different now because of the D20 system. So I don't know what a strength level of 20 really amounts to, because Superman, kind of seems like he's even beyond what a 20 would be in D&D, but I could be wrong.
Well, but also this is a different take that's kind of probably a little bit more
grounded a little bit D&D style. Yeah.
Right. So that might not play out. I don't know. I know Tim read this, and I didn't have a chance to check this out. So, but I probably will. But the fact that they did this, I know there's been a lot of more mixing between D&D and comic books lately, in the past year, as we've seen with other stuff that we've talked about in the past. So it's cool. Yeah, like I don't know. Some of this character sheets, like these are some. If they were actually rolled, I seriously doubt these numbers would come out the way they have. Because let's be honest, I have rolled characters recently, and none of my rolls have been this good across the board. None of them.
I was about to say, you need some weighted dice there, man. You're not going to get those with those electronic clicks.
Well, no. I did actual. I had actual dice rolls on at the very least one character. Actually, technically, I did the digital and physical on this one particular combo, so I went with one set. Regardless, but like I said, these are a little too even, a little too high in certain aspects.
But we are also dealing with Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, like the apex of the DC characters. So
sure, but even still, with that seems a little weighted on some things. Like this is.
I'm just saying that has to be the case, But anyway, let's move on.
Well, I'm just saying. Look at this. You know what? Yeah, we can talk about
Roddy
that later.
decides to dwell on this a little longer.
I'm just saying, but we can talk about that later. Next up, though.
This is you.
Me? DC teases the future of Gotham City's Outsiders and looks familiar. This is the spoilers for, I believe, this week's Batman Urban Legends number 9. To which the long and the short of it is, I guess this is a Fear State tie-in, and yeah, it's a Fear State tie-in. If I said Future State, I didn't mean that. But regardless, let's see. Duke Thomas is able to radically alter the darkest potential fate of for Future State. In the process, he changes the future for the Outsiders, resulting in a new roster for the team that proves the team will remain a fixture for decades to come, according to this article. And it kind of goes into Fear State and Duke Thomas's a grown-up Duke Thomas's impact. Let's say, which we will not go on just in case someone will want to read this. But apparently, yeah, this is a slightly different team of Outsiders makeup in this thing. Next up,
DC has big plans for its Aquaman franchise in 2022. So a new Aquaman comic book is in the works. An editor for DC Comics shared a logo for a project titled Aquamen which seems to allude to a possible team-up series or event starring current Aquaman Arthur Curry and Aqualad / Jackson Hyde, who is destined to take on the role of Aquaman at some point in the future to coincide with the future state timeline. Details remain scarce, but we do know the project involves writers Brandon Thomas and Chuck Brown, who are currently working on various Aquaman comics at DC. Okay.
Yeah, apparently they're making Aquaman a franchise because Chuck Brown is definitely doing that Black Manta miniseries right now. So I guess that means there might be something else going on. So shout out to Chuck Brown.
Sure, it's a corner of the DC universe under the sea. Down wet, sir.
Yeah, but Aquaman. Actually, I saw this and I was like, Aquaman just reminds me of that Spider-Man miniseries, or those Spider-Man miniseries from Marvel, which I'm not saying that suggestion they're cribbing off of that. I'm just saying that it just seems similar.
Darling,
we don't know what it's gonna be.
Take it from me.
So yeah, and it goes on to the stuff, including that Aquaman Green Arrow thing that started last week. Anyway, is DC killing Superman again? Action Comics writer addresses fans' fears. So Action Comics writer Philip Kennedy Johnson reassured fans worried about Clark Kent's recent exodus to World and his son succeeding him as the Superman of Earth. Quote unquote, I've been hearing from a lot of Superman fans, and I'm going to put quotes on that personally, who are scared by all of the recent speculation that World is a part of some shady backdoor corporate plan to replace Clark as Superman. Johnson wrote on Twitter. To those fans, I don't know how to ease your worries, without spoiling what's coming, and I can't do that. But I love Clark Kent as much as you do. Keep reading, and I promise we won't betray you. Superman is forever. End quote. So yeah, I'm sure this has something to do with people are brushing up against the fact that John has come out as bisexual. There is another article that I forgot to put in here that apparently the artist for said book have had death threats and had to seek the assistance of LAPD in that, which is so very stupid. But there is that. Next up.
Alrighty. In our penultimate story, comic industry's oldest distributor is currently being held. I think this is still active. Is still being held hostage by a ransomware attack. Diamond Comics Distributor's website has been down for some retailers after a ransomware attack on the company's order processes and communications. It is the oldest distributor of comic books in the world. They have exclusive distribution deals with Dark Horse, Boom, and Image Comics. And as I said earlier, they have been hit by a ransomware attack that has kept the company's website shut down. Final order cutoff order adjustments were due the other day. The website outage possibly affected some retailers' ability to order product from the companies that are exclusive to Diamond. Diamond published a statement on a short-term website that it is using to communicate with retailers, and the company also released an update for comic book shipping this week. My understanding is that some shipments were delayed this week, specifically in Baltimore, Boston, and Dallas. And and my understanding is there were some small New York delays as well from anecdotal evidence I have from the New York City comic book stores, but they were few and far in between in New York at least. The story is still developing as Diamond attempts to address this attack on its order processes and communications. All processes and communications. That is the proper way of pronouncing the plural of process.
Indeed. So yeah, state, I guess, maybe more on that or when that something comes available, I guess. I don't know. Canary Crow creator.
I was about to say the only thing I have to add to that before you finish up is don't open emails you don't recognize and don't respond to emails you don't recognize.
There it is. That's true. Canary co-creator Dan Panosian drops stunning art from his and Scott Snyder's series. Let's see. Dan Panosian revealed new interior art from his upcoming series Canary, his first through Best Jacket Press. Canary is an upcoming comic from Panosian and writer Scott Snyder that will be available through Comixology on December 31st, 2021. The book is being produced through Snyder's creator-owned imprint Best Jacket Press and is part of the writers' partnership between Comixology and Dark Horse that will see more than a half a dozen new titles released by the end of the year. Wait, this year or next year? Because this year's almost over. It takes place in the year 1891 in Canary County, a small town with a dark substance buried 666 feet beneath the surface. Dun dun dun. So yeah, and you can see previews of the art of that in this article. And if you're interested in that, like we said, December 31st. And that is it, folks, for the news. And that is it for the end of the show. But first, one last ad read.
Do we have anything for Toy Corner?
Oh, we do. I was going to do that after the ads, but sure, we could do that now.
I have something, and you have something, so take it away.
Okay.
Yeah, do you want me to go first?
No, I got it. I'm good. Let's see.
Okay.
I'm just gonna get think. There we go. Close-up shots. You love them. We got them.
Right.
For myself in Toy Corner, I just got one ting. Whoops. There we go. And that is the Marvel Legends Tigra figure.
Very cool.
There we go. That's not going to come out too swiftly there, but there you go.
That's very
as you can
cool.
see, it is the retro figure. It's got the little card thing on the back. You know, for the audio listeners, it's got a head. It's got another set of hands, and it's quite orange.
Yes.
So, and I don't know why, but the legs look seemingly longer, but not that's I don't know, but it is what it. But so this basically brings me one step closer to my Wacko's diorama that may or may not ever happen.
I'm eventually going to get that Tigra. You know, that Tigra and the Hercules that are both out on that retro card, I think are next to figures I actively get. So my Toy Corner were actually gifts, believe it or not. And I got a figure that is not available on Amazon right now, or at least not for regular price. So this is a figure that I've been trying to get Roddykat to get, and it is, see if I can get the camera to pick this up. If not, I'm just going to turn off my virtual background real quick. I'm just going to turn this off real quick. Boom. This is the Gamerverse Spider-Man Miles Morales. That's based off of the video game. And it is a pretty cool figure. I know I have told Roddykat that he should pick this up. It comes with the Zappy Venom Blast hands, which is cool. It does come with another 2 sets of hands and a Miles unmasked head in addition to the masked head. And it does come with, I think, one of the legs for the Armadillo Build-A-Figure. But ultimately, this is a really cool Miles figure. I'm not home at the moment. You might be able to tell from my background, but I'm definitely going to take a look and see if, you know, and compare this to the original Miles figure that we've gotten, and see how well they stack up next to each other. I presume that this is just going to be a better figure. Also, it has the pinless technology in the elbows and knees, so it is, you know, more than likely going to be a better looking figure simply because of that. So that's one figure. I also got Marvel's Maverick, the other member of Team X. So if I feel like reenacting that brief arc from Jim Lee's run on the adjectiveless X-Men that introduced Maverick and showed us that Team X history with Sabretooth, Maverick, and Wolverine together, I might actually be able to pull that off now. So this was a pleasant surprise as a surprise gift this week. So I'm glad to get these, but I definitely intend to jump on that Tiger bandwagon and also pick up that those retro card Avengers, Tigra and Hercules specifically. And that is it for Toy Corner for me.
Cool. Well, then, that being the case, let us move to our last ad of the night.
And you know what we read when we're running late and we're tired? Help us keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or the odd Marvel legend. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
And as we come to the end of another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles, we'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out here. If you are, if you've come through to the live recording, or hey, if you've come through for the video later on or the audio later on, doesn't matter. We appreciate you for being here, and however you partake of this program. As a quick reminder. To actually, well, I guess today, as of this moment, is December 12th. I mean, excuse me, November 12th. I'm not jumping that far into the future. It is Disney Plus Day, which means that we will more than likely get a good bit of news next week coming out of that particular event. Some of which we've kind of previewed here tonight during this program, but definitely we will be getting more of. As folk may or may not know, last year is Disney Plus Day, which I guess is when it was pinned, was when we got the whole slew of announcements of shows and movies coming out from Marvel and Disney and other, well, Disney particularly, and Marvel therein and other parts of Disney therein. This would probably be a similar affair. May or may not be as much, but we will see going forward. So stay tuned for next week's episode. That being said, to see what comes out of that.
And we'll probably get some thoughts from Roddykat on Shang-Chi.
Possibly, yes. Because yes, tomorrow will also, or today will actually bring about Shang-Chi to Disney Plus, and I will more than likely watch it a couple of times by next week, or by next show rather.
Right.
So that being said, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. My name is Roddykat. You can find me at, you thought I was going to end it, but I didn't. I am Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_7, you can find him on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_Dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and his umbrella sites therein. And the Osiris that is ish, Tim DOGG98 on Twitter. Also the Click Nation on Twitter, that's the KLIQNATION. Also CB Cron, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. You can find him there. But of course, you can also find him on comicbook.com, writing his face off. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network, that's cspn.us.
Do it today.
And actually, on that note, actually, I should have checked this out beforehand. I'm hoping that last week's episode did actually come up, but probably without video, which I still haven't had the chance to mess around with. But hopefully, but if it hasn't, then it'll be up in the next day or two when I can fix the video from last week. That being said, but the other should definitely be out. But you can also find this podcast on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. You can find us recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the YouTube channel of The Click Nation. That's youtube.com/The Click Nation, and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles, which is all one word. So, with that, stay tuned for next week's episode. Thank you for coming out, and we appreciate you. So this is the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Before I peace out, just wanted to say that we recorded this on Veterans Day, so we wanted to send very deepest thanks to the survivors of all foreign wars, and specifically the veterans, people who made it out of their deployments in whatever piece that they did. And thank you for your service. So shout out, those are the people we thank on Veterans Day. Memorial Day is a little different, folks. There is our public service announcement for the week, and I will leave you with a very specific sound effect for this. So piece one.
And knowing is half the battle.